that was quick. Good. Yay, I'm ready to. I'm Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I'm thrilled and excited and delighted to be about to talk to a woman. It's always exciting for me to talk to a woman. But in this particular case, it will be a lady, a girl, and I say this very specifically because it's not a guy. Even though her sport for the past many, many years is one that we would associate very specifically with males. But no, she is definitely a female. She's here. We need her. Oh, say something so we know you're not muted. You're good.
Hello, Dave. Thank you for having me.
Rabbi Sol Solomon. Pay attention, goddammit.
Sorry, Sol. Sorry.
Shalom to you, Helen Wright. Helen, surprise everybody. Tell them what sport you have played and coached for many, many years.
The sport of rugby.
Rugby. A sport where basically people pile on each other. They go looking for a thing. There's a ball that scoots around from everywhere. How are you involved in a sport that is so, to my eyes, crazy, physical, dangerous, male, but not? Tell us.
Well, so I started out just like most things in life start out as just sort of haphazard. So my husband played rugby and he wanted me to watch him all the time. And I said, I'm not so interested, right? If I could play, I would do it, right? And he came home one day and he said, oh, guess what? There's these women that play rugby. And I said, oh, well, I shot off my mouth. I guess I better go and participate. And at first I was scared, right? Because you hit people.
I've assumed it was kind of pardon the expression, a bulldyke festival, but not.
So I started to play and I thought, okay, well, here's the deal, Helen. You play till you get injured, and then that's a legitimate, sort of way out of the game. And then I didn't get injured, and I was so challenged, and I was so pleased with myself on how tough I was, right? And it's a little bit like running a marathon. It's the accomplishment, it's the challenge, it's the confidence you get from actually doing that and doing it well. And then you kind of go, well, if I could do this, what else can I do?
But how did you not get injured? Isn't it just basically people looking for something that looks like a football, piling onto it and trying to punch the ball out and then punching each other instead? Isn't that the game?
There's actually rules to rugby, and so things like you can't hit a person that doesn't carry the ball, right? And also you're not supposed to tackle like above the waist, right? And so the stuff that you see on TV is not always a good replica of it's like the professional, wild and crazy stuff. In the regular game that's played in normal levels, it's all relative, right? So I'm playing against women who are about my size, maybe a bit bigger, maybe a bit smaller, right? But I mean, we tackle and you run and you pass the ball, but it's a very inclusive game, right? Like you're out there with 15 other people, and it's this opportunity to share meeting your fears with 14 other girls, and it's a collective experience. And so you're not alone.
Wait, how can it be? I would assume like the girl who is 190 pounds and 6'1" is going to have an edge over the 112-pound girl who's 5'1". Yes.
Well, she would if she could catch her. Oh. Right? Like you have to remember that. So rugby is kind of like where the big people are like the linemen in football, right? And they have a place where they contest for the ball. Like it's like a jump ball in basketball and a face-off in hockey, right? And there are these places where you contest, and those bigger size, powerful women, that's where they go to contest, and it's controlled. And so then they, try to obtain possession. Right. And then the ball goes out to faster, fleet-footed people who run very quickly down the field. So it isn't like big people are slamming small people all the time. It's more of an equal opportunity thing where, you
if
get
people are taking off down the field, they have the ball. Like
yes.
A tiny person, a 4'11" girl, has the ball.
Yes.
Aren't
Yeah.
they all running after her to pile onto her to get the ball?
No, they're not running on her to pile onto her. They're running on her to tackle her because the law says that as soon as her knees hit the ground, she has to release that ball. Right. And so it becomes live ball then, right? So they just need to tackle her to the ground. She has to give up possession of the ball, and then somebody else can take the ball. Right. And so the laws within the game are actually quite well distributed so that they keep it active. That's the one thing about rugby, is that it's continuous play, right? The only time they blow a whistle is if there's a technical infraction, like you pass the ball forward, or you intentionally hit the ball forward. Like that's the sort of nuance of the game, is that the ball is passed laterally down the field and people run the ball forward. And you can kick in rugby too, right? But yeah, so there's all kinds of opportunities.
What is a standard rugby score? I mean, is it how many points for crossing the line and
You get 5 points. It's in football they call it a touchdown, but in rugby it's called a try. And you get 5 points for touching the ball down with control over the goal line, right? And then you get a 2-point conversion. So when you're scoring lots of those kinds of touchdowns, right, then they're in multiples of 7, right? But you also get 3 points for a penalty kick, similar, right, to football.
Make the kick, right?
Yeah. And there's a thing called a drop kick, which is the sort of epitome of skill in rugby, is that while the game is being played,
6'1" girl takes the 4-foot girl and just kicks her over there
and punts her through the post. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. No. But I mean, so is it high scoring compared to football? I mean, because it's continuous play. The ball never, there's no downs where everything ever you throw it out of bounds, the clock stops. It just keeps going and going until someone crosses a line. Or is it like soccer where a 2-3 game is high scoring?
I would say it's kind of in the middle. There are, in professional leagues, and in some games. So it'd be the same as football, where if you've got a one-sided game where there's an absolutely talented one side and the other are less, they don't have as much skill, then you're going to have a lopsided game. You can have games in rugby where it's like, 21-0 or whatever. But you can also have games where it's like 3 to 7, right? But
how long is the game? Is it a full hour, a quarter?
80 minutes.
80 minutes.
80 minutes. Yeah.
I am surprised. I would figure that on almost every set of plays, they would get down the field and then the other team would try and get it. It doesn't work like that.
There's a restart, right? So once you score a try, right, then the other team kicks off to the team that just scored.
Right.
Yeah, it kicks off, right? And then so the receiving team then has the opportunity to go down the field and score.
But that's why I would figure the scores would be in the hundreds and not.
Oh, no.
That's why I'm a little surprised at that. I don't.
What happens is that, I don't know if you watch the last World Cup at all or you see any on TV, but what happens is there are these sort of tackles and breakdowns. And like in the last game, there was the game against Ireland and New Zealand, who are two of the very top teams. But there was 34 phases of play, that's called, where you take the ball forward, you get tackled, you recycle the ball, you get it back to your own guys, and they go again. And you try to go all over the field trying to do this, trying to penetrate their defense. And then, if you can't go through them, then you kick it over and somebody chases underneath and then they come back again. So 35 phases of play is a lot of continuous play, and that is a very high skill level to be able to retain the possession going into those points of contact, right? So
I would figure you say once you hit the ground, you have to give up the ball. It's like a
Yes.
fumble is required. You essentially let go of the ball.
You lay it back towards your own players if you can. Like you've got the ball in your hands, you're being tackled, and you turn and you place it back towards your own players, who then try and pick it up. Now, the other players, if there's nobody there, if there's just two players and you get tackled and the ball goes down, there's nobody around you, somebody else can come over and pick that ball up, right? So you have to have support all the time.
Right, yeah. That's what I'm figuring is, I'm sure, quote unquote, fumbles must happen all the time where you tackle, you put the ball over here, and it's the other team that grabs it and starts going the other way. Yeah. But I wonder, wouldn't they just at that point not be expected to be tackled? Just run all the way back and boom, have the ball. No?
Well, you love to think that you're not going to be tackled. Like if you have clear field in front of you, then that's a real motivation to get fast soon, right? But but somebody's, if they see you've got the ball and you're running towards their goal line, somebody's going to run after you and try and catch you, right? But they don't always succeed, right? If you've got like those fumbles you're talking about, that's what generates real excitement in the game, right? Because all of a sudden nobody knows who's got the ball and who's coming, and you got to be aware, right? And you've got to respond to that, right? And you have to respond within the guidelines, as well, within the rules too, right?
So can't pull out a knife. I mean, that would be a bad.
Yeah, like you have to be on side. On side means generally, if I'm coaching young new people, I'll just say, think of onside as being on your side of the ball. Right? Like you always have to come from your side of the ball.
Yeah, I never understood football offsides. What do you mean offsides? I'm standing here. Whose side am I on? Well, let me ask you. So you met your first husband when he was a rugby player, right? And you watched. It was exciting. It was good. Then by the time you decide, hey, I want to play this, there were already women's rugby teams playing.
No, actually, No, in 1977 in Edmonton, Alberta, where I live, that was the beginning of rugby for us. There was one team, and we talked the girls in Calgary into starting a team, and mostly they were, sort of girlfriends and wives of or daughters of rugby players that already, that were already playing. And so there's one team in Edmonton, one team in Calgary, and we started playing. And then we heard about, a team in Vancouver and some teams in Ottawa and Toronto and that. And so then once we started playing for a while, we decided that, okay, well, let's have a national championship. And so then all, these teams, the provincial teams, then you had to, organize yourself into the best in your province, or in the States, it would be called your state, right? And then we played for a national championship. And that happened about 1982, I think was the first one. And then when we had a national championship in 1987, we decided that at this point, we had approval from the national body to create a national women's team. And so we picked a national women's team from that national championship. That was the selection tool. And then there was a game that was set up against the American national team in Victoria in 1987. And that was the first sort of foray.
Were you in that? Did you participate, or you were?
Yeah, I was selected to that team. So that was lots of fun. It wasn't always it was not a great experience for me as a player. And that's what actually motivated me to start coaching, because I really felt strongly that you can do this differently. You can coach better. Like, you don't have to coach like this. We can do this better. And so I started coaching because I had this different philosophy of coaching.
Well, then we'll get into that, but I want to finish sort of your playing days thing, because did you ever play on male teams, or you've only coached?
No. So you have to be you don't want to be, that's dangerous, right? You don't want to be, I don't want like a 200-pound man, like I'm 130 pounds, and I don't want to be tackled by a 200-pound man. And it's all relative. There's there's power in there, right? And so if 10-year-olds are playing 10-year-olds and they're all about 100 pounds, it's safe, right? And if women are playing women, even though there's big women and small women, but we're all women and we have the same sort of skeletal structure and power base.
And thank goodness for that. Yes.
Yeah, so it's relative,
Well,
right?
actually, let me ask you that question. This begs the question now that everybody is kind of talking about, even though it's a 1 in 100,000 kind of thing. But where do you stand on transgender people wanting to play, let's say,
Yeah.
playing women's rugby?
So that's a really interesting question, and it's being, like, I'm sure that all the powers that be that have to, at some point make those decisions. I guess the only issue for me, like, I don't care what your pronoun is, and I don't care. Like, everybody can play rugby, absolutely everybody. The only area that would be a little bit, I don't know, worrisome maybe, is that if you have a male biology, you have a male skeletal structure and you have a male, sort of muscular structure. And then, we've got females that, like I say, are 130 pounds and they're fit as hell, but their structure is not as powerful as a male structure. And so I think that would be a challenge, right? And I don't think that, I don't know for sure in all of the rugby world, but in my world, it hasn't become an issue. The transgender kids that are coming into the game with us, their sizes are appropriate, right, to the sizes that they're playing.
That's true. They haven't turned it. It hasn't become like, oh, I was a 250-pound
Yeah.
linebacker, and now call me Sheila. It's a little sort of
yeah.
thing. So let me ask you. You were asked at one point to coach male teams. Did you ever take any crap? Did you ever, get yeah.
Oh my God. Oh yes. I've written a book that has all kinds of stories about, it's called Barefoot Flying. And it describes all kinds of those situations, but did I take any guff? There was one time that I'm pretty crusty. I grew up on a farm out in the outback of BC, British Columbia. And so, like, my mom and dad, they didn't treat us like girls or boys or anything. And there wasn't a sensitive environment. So pretty crusty. And, but one guy said to me, you will never, ever get the respect of these players because you're a Sheila, and that's Australian for you're a woman. You're a woman. You will never get that. And I remember thinking to myself, screw you. I'm going to coach all these young boys, and I'm going to get all my friends to coach all the young guys. And pretty soon, young men growing up won't know the difference between a woman or a man, and they won't care. Okay. And so this BS about, you're not going to respect me because I'm a woman, that's just garbage. And so, but the cool part is that I looked at him and I said, yeah, well, too bad for you, because I'm your coach now. And if you keep that up, you're benched.
Oh, there you go. That's true power. It's like, walk softly and carry a big bench is essentially.
Yeah. Yes. Carry a big bench.
Now, the book, is it for children? Is it an adult book, or your history?
It's an adult book. It just sort of, it tells my story basically from how I got into rugby and all of my experiences in coaching and right up to, and it includes my philosophies of like, because I think we have to change how we coach just generally in the world. And because the way that authoritarian top-down coaching is just not relevant anymore. Like, young people, they are consumers, right? And they are not buying. If you can't tell them, so if I tell you, Saul, I want you to go run down to the end of the field and then run back. In your day and my day, we would just do what we were told because that's how we were conditioned. Okay, I guess I'll go do that. But nowadays, children go, and why am I doing like, coach, why do you want me to run
Exercise
down
to
there and
get
run
better. I
back?
mean, that's not it's not a silly request by you to order them to run up and down the field, get faster, get air in the lungs, and get
Right. And so,
training.
but it's just this sort of collective approach that, like, we have to treat these athletes, even if they're little, like they're people,
But what do you
and
say to
so
them? You say, if you feel like it, would you mind? No, if you can walk a little, please walk a little bit faster, just to get. And then if you want to, you can keep going, go to the store, or you can come back. What do you
No, I
say?
think what you say is you go, okay, today, guys, we're gonna do some fitness. It's gonna involve some of this and some of that. And the reason we're gonna do it is because we need to get you fitter. You're really nice and big and strong, right? Boys or girls or men or women, but this is an 80-minute game. And so we need for you to be able to run for 80 minutes. Like, you need to be able to run, do push-ups, run, do push-ups. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of fitness work so that you can enjoy yourself when you get out there, and so that you can meet your potential, right? Like, so let's get at her. And, if you're a good coach, you can turn that into even like games of some kind, right? So that it's like, I don't like doing fitness, but if you can trick me into it, I'm happy to do it. Like, if you say, okay, Helen, Saul here is going to run behind you and he thinks he's going to just beat your ass, right? And then I go, oh, you think so, Saul? You think so? I don't think so, right? And we're off. And all of a sudden, I've done, 20 minutes of fitness, and all I can do is walk up to Saul and go, how do you like that, Saul? Right? And
Okay,
it's
so
fun,
like,
right?
if you want me to do, let's say, push-ups, you put a prime rib right just outside my view, and you just kind of like get a little closer.
Yeah, yeah,
And on the 25th push-up, you get a bite.
yeah.
That
That's
would
right.
work.
Reward.
It works. It's a good thing.
It absolutely is.
Now there's a sports writer in New York who was on this program many years ago, who writes all constantly and incessantly about how sports is going downhill, how it's been ruined by bad sportsmanship, by gambling, by everything. So you're probably on this same team of this idea of, the showboating, the all about me thing, the dances in the end zone, the all of the, and people who don't, the guy gets on, at the plate, hits something that he hopes is going to be a home run, and starts like barely even jogging to first. And it's not a home run, and it gets a single, but it could have been an off the wall, it could have been a double if he just hustled a little bit. Where are you on this whole sportsmanship thing?
Well, I think that there are reasons people play. People play sports because they want to connect to begin with community, right? Like they want to be part of something, and they want to be challenged, right? Like they want to do something where they're going to be better at the end than they were at the beginning. They want to have a connection, right? So you need to engage them first. Like, you need to get them engaged in what they're doing, and then they need to improve, right? And like, they need to expand. So they need to be engaged, they need to expand, and then they need to connect with the other people that they're playing with, right? And if you, the coach, are the person who is modeling respect and modeling hard work and modeling work ethic, like, that's the thing, is that everybody's complaining that there's no work ethic, right? Well, there's no work ethic because they don't see the value, and they don't they don't care if you think they're good or not. So the coaching now, it needs to instill some sort of self respect, right? Like, you need to have self-respect in order to respect anything around you. And so that's what coaching can do, right? But if you just go out there and bark at them and just, tell them to, do things, and they're kind of looking at you like, why am I doing this? You got to be able to answer why.
Well, I mean, the men in professional sports are doing this because they have a contract that pays them $15 million a year, which means they don't have to try, which means they probably would like to get lightly injured so that they can collect a paycheck and not even have to do anything.
Well, so I would disagree. I don't think that there is any athlete that steps on the court, on the field, on the ice, anywhere that wants to pooch. Like there's nobody who gets out there. You and I, if we're playing racquetball, we don't go on the court and say, how badly can I do? Right? It's just not our nature, right? So nobody goes out there trying to fail. And yet professional athletes, they do fail. And so what are you doing about that?
This is they're paid so much to be at their best, and they just kind of like, I'll make a basket catch instead of a real effort,
yeah. I don't think people, especially in professional sports, want to be seen as not trying, right? I'm sure that they're trying, but I think that there's other things that are going on, right? And maybe they shouldn't be paid that much money, and maybe they've lost their just love of what they're doing, right? And maybe they don't like where they are, right? Like if you, Saul, didn't work in a place, like if you weren't doing what you were doing, you might not be so funny. You might not be so engaged. You might not be so attracted, to what you're doing.
It's like attractive, damn it. Right, yeah. But let me also ask you, who, if you could pick someone, who is the greatest female rugby player of all time, besides you?
Who is the greatest? Workman.
Huh?
There's a girl in New Zealand called I can't remember her first name, Workman, and she, in my opinion, she played for about 10 to 20 years and scored more tries. And in New Zealand, this game is like hockey to Canadians. It's like soccer to English people. So rugby is like that. And she has scored more tries than any male who playing the same game. And so it's this New Zealand girl, and I'm bad for names, but her last name is Workman, and I think that she's outstanding.
And your son must have played because he coaches too. So
yeah, he did play, yeah, and that was kind of one of the most fun times of my life, was coaching with him, because I tend to be a forwards kind of coach, like the sort of like the linemen, the power people, and he is a more of a backs coach, which is like finesse and ball kicking and ball movement, right? And so between the two of us, it was so much fun, right? Like to do that.
Well, that is so. I mean, it is fascinating. It makes me want to watch a rugby game. Male or female.
You should watch a rugby game there. And the nice thing about rugby is that, like, when I started playing, I had no idea what the rules were. And you just it's a game because the referee in this game has complete control. So there are 30 players on the field, one referee, and he or she rules. Then they just rule.
Wait. How can they even see who's got possession, or if there's one ref on the field and they're over there and the play is happening here?
No, the referee runs around in the middle with the play.
Wow. So
the referees have to be fit.
Yeah, because even in the NFL, there's like 5 referees throwing flags. This one's here. This one has a better view.
No, rugby has one referee on the field running around, and then 2 linesmen that sort of take care of, when the ball goes out, where does it go out, who knocked it out, that kind of thing. But yeah, and so that's why this game is special to me, because you see these like mammoth men, right? And they're crashing each other, and there's this little ref comes over and says, stop it, stop tackling high. Right. And, and he goes, if you do that again, I'm going to yellow card you. Right. And so, and they go away, because there is this respect in the game, because it can be a very dangerous game. So there has to be respect for the law. There has to be respect for the rules and the laws of the game. And they do. Everybody listens to the referee.
It's probably good that rugby isn't, with all due respect, that popular in America, because then it would be ruined like football, because nobody has any respect, or baseball. But why do you think that rugby has not, quote unquote, caught on in a big way? either for watching TV or even children playing it, because soccer, it's funny, soccer is
Yeah.
hugely popular until you're 10 years old. And then everybody stops giving a shit, and then it's all about football and baseball and you know.
I think, well, first of all, rugby is more of a cultural game. Like there's a culture to rugby. There are traditions to the game, and it has grown up throughout the planet as clubs. Like that's where it starts. It isn't played a lot. Maybe now in high schools they play it a little bit, but it hasn't been a game that has been in the school system, and so therefore it gets sent down generation by generation in these clubs. And the clubs they're wonderful places, I think, because like, so for instance, my son traveled around the world, and you just go from club to club, and they invite you in, and you come in, and you know where do you want to play, you know, and you become a member of these clubs. And you can, like, you know, for parents, you can send your kids out, travel the world, and know that somebody's going to keep an eye on them, right? And the thing about clubs is it goes from little children to like 80-year-old guys, right? And there's old boys and everybody in between plays, right? And so there's this sort of familial kind of feel in these clubs. That doesn't always appeal to the North American sort of sport system.
Where we want our home team, and it's basically like the players are here, and when they're traded away, they're evil or something. Maybe it's
yeah, and the whole thing about rugby also is that so for instance, after a game is played, the players line up and they shake hands. And in the old days, you used to, like, you'd go buy your opposite number a beer, and
hey,
you would have, like, you'd have dinner, like you would eat together and you would drink together, and you know, that was how the game ended. And those traditions now in new times, you know, they get a little watered down, but they are still there. You know, like there's a tradition of you shake hands with your opposite number, you know, because both of you have survived this game, right? Like there's this understanding that it isn't just the opposition, it's the game itself that is challenging. And if you've both made it through and unscathed, right, then cheers.
this is why I have been trying to institute for the pickleball team that I'm on, post-game orgies. I've been trying to get that going. You know, several pickleball, male and female, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's good. It's whatever you want. All, you know, you take it off, you go all in a pile. You're not looking for that kind of ball. And you go crazy, you drink Manischewitz, you pour it all over each other, and then you wake up the next morning, you don't even know where you were.
That's a scary picture of old people with white bodies rolling around after a pickleball game. I don't know about that.
I have a very interesting shul. But we have been talking, by the way, with Helen Wright, and it's spelled Wright, right? So where can we get your book, Barefoot Flying?
It's on Amazon. And I also have a podcast, a coaching podcast, and it's on Spotify. If you look on Spotify for Coaching Needs to Change, you'll find me there. And I have a website that's www.barefootflying.ca.
Oh, because you're Canadian. You get
Yeah.
that.
And so it's BarefootFlying. So just Barefoot Flying is the book, and that's where my website is. And you can order the book on Amazon, and you can listen to my podcast on Spotify and also on that website.
Actually, that does make for our final question together. It occurred to me while reading about you and stuff. Rugby, you are protected. You have, you know, do you have padding and stuff like that? You don't. It's just,
no, you don't.
Well, are you barefoot?
Sorry, are you barefoot? No, you have cleats.
So please tell me, what does the title of your book refer to?
Barefoot flying is an experience that I had when I was a little kid. And it's when you're, when you're a child and you think that anything is possible for you, right? And you're running and you feel, you're running in your bare feet on the sand or on the grass, and then you just put your arms out to the side, and when you're like 4 or 5 years old, you just feel like you could lift off and fly. And I experienced that same feeling when I played rugby, with the girls, right? And so it was this feeling of, oh my God, we can do anything here. Like we could pass the ball, we can kick, like we could do anything. We could just fly, like it was just such a cool feeling.
What I didn't understand, now I get, because when I was a kid, in Jones Beach, I would be running along the sand, and that moment when you feel like you're going to take off, and that is exactly when I would step on a shell, and they would have to take me to the emergency room. And the shell was covered with dog shit, and I'd get an infection, and I'd be laid up for 2 weeks. That was a horrible childhood. But I've had a wonderful time chatting with the lovely and delightful and talented and very motivational and very inspirational. And I do wish more coaches were like you. I honestly do. Helen Wright, please go to barefootflying.ca. Barefootflying.ca for Canada. And I wish you. Are you still coaching, or are you just writing and talking about coaching? Are you still?
I just finished coaching just actually this past month, and I don't know, unless I get another sort of great opportunity to coach. But I was still coaching up till now. But I think I might just become like one of those wise women.
That's right. Well, a motivational, inspirational, coachy kind of speak. You're in the. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even mention. You're in which halls of fame are you in right at the moment? There.
At the University of Alberta, and the Canada West Hall of Fame, which is the varsity in Western Canada, and the City of Edmonton, like the rugby union here, Hall of Fame. So
actually, wait, what was your degree in when you got?
Well, I went to university. My degree is in psychology.
This actually makes complete, total sense. So if you charge by the hour, I have a couch and I could totally get
yeah.
help. Anyway, Helen Wright, I thank you so much for being so smart, so delightful, so inspirational and motivational. And I wish you many more years of finding other ways to barefoot fly through your life.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Saul, for having me on your show. I am so delighted to have been here, and you're a lovely, lovely, funny man.
But thank you for lying about that. Mwah to you. Shalom.
Shalom. Bye-bye.